Hi guys, thank you for checking out my videos and my channel. So today I wanted to have a little chat about eating disorders and the treatment process. This can be helpful for people going through an eating disorder, figuring out their treatment options, friends and family of those who have an eating disorder or had an eating disorder. And it's one of those things where if you don't have it, you don't understand, and it can be really hard for them, and it can be really hard for the person struggling. So let's see. I'll start from the beginning. So how I knew. So the funny thing about eating disorders is it's something you might not actually know you have for a while. So I got mine when I was a freshman in college. So it started where I had the control for what I could eat, and I just started being very healthy. So I started going for fat-free milk, fat-free yogurt, salads, a lot of chicken breast, and then I was like, well, I don't actually need to eat this much. Let's see. So I just kept reducing and reducing. I'd go to the gym and I'd run miles and miles and then weigh myself, and as long as it was not going up, I felt okay, but I still didn't know I had a problem. I ate. Like, I had breakfast, I had lunch, I had dinner, I had some snacks. The snacks reduced, all the meals reduced as the year went on, but I didn't know I had a problem until, I don't know if anybody remembers the show Make It or Break It. It was on ABC Family, and it was about gymnasts, and one of the characters was struggling with an eating disorder, and at the end they had a public service announcement about, if you're struggling, if you know someone that's struggling, go to nationaleatingdisorders.org, I think it is. So that kind of opened my eyes up, and I said, okay. So I checked out the website, I called the hotline, I talked to someone there. That was my first steps. That gave me the courage. I actually even talked to one of my best friends. We texted about it. I said, hey, I think I might have a problem, and she said, I'm here for you. I can come home and talk to your parents about it. I'll be there for you. And that meant a lot to me, but I didn't make her come home because it was like the very end of the school year, and I didn't want her to miss out on anything. So I went home. I kind of was planning on doing it like one night after dinner or something, and then just all of a sudden at dinner, I don't know, something came over me, and I just busted out into tears and said, I think I have an eating disorder. And my parents were very supportive. And it was just really nice to have their support there, and their, just like I felt their love. So right after dinner, we went on to the website, and my dad looked up like the resources, how to get treatment, and what are the next steps, because I mean, it can be hard. What do you do? So we found a therapist nearby, and unfortunately we had to go to a wedding like the next week or 2 weeks, and the therapist was booked up until he came back. So the wedding was in California. When I finally went to see the therapist, she pretty much took a look at me and called a doctor nearby, one of the doctors in their neighborhood, and got me an appointment that day to go get my vitals checked out and just talk to her about everything. So it was a busy, hectic day. So we went from the therapist to the doctors. She got me an appointment that day. They were really concerned, and then the doctor got me she called 2 treatment centers and said the first one that responds, you're going there. And I'm putting in my word. I'm going to keep calling them and make sure the spot opens up within the next week. If it doesn't open up within the next week, you're coming back to see me. We have to make sure that your weight doesn't go down too much more and your vitals stay where they are or improve a little bit. So I think it was like 3 days later, I was actually shopping at Giant. My dad called and said, Amanda, there is a treatment center. We have to go right now. He was coming home from work. I dropped my groceries. I just said, don't need these anymore. I got to go home and pack. So I went to an inpatient treatment center where you are there 24/7. So you sleep there, you eat your meals there, and you do all the programs. So with that, the first day was really just like long, but I didn't know what I was doing, so I just followed everybody. I went in, I talked to a bunch of people, got some tests done, a ton of tests done, blood drawn. They got the EKG monitor on me to check that out, my blood glucose levels. Yes, I got the fun finger prick like every day for a month or so. I got my blood drawn every day for a month or so. And they just kind of wanted to make sure that everything was maintaining, or at least maintaining or improving. Then I made it in time for dinner there. We probably got there around lunchtime, but with all like the tests, talking to the therapist and everything, I didn't actually get to the group until dinner time. I think I walked in on dinner, which was kind of an awkward time to walk in and be the new person at a eating disorder treatment center, but I did it. So the newbies actually all go in the first like 3 days, I think it is. We all went in like a separate room, so I guess that was a little less awkward. So yeah, that was the first day, just really long. It was a blur. And then throughout the treatment process, you kind of go through a different therapy. So we did cognitive behavioral therapy, we did some group therapy talks, we did individual therapy, art therapy, one of my favorites. There were just a bunch of different programs, a lot of helpful information that is just good in general for everybody. It doesn't even have to apply to eating disorders, like a lot of mindfulness things that they focused on for our eating disorder. But if you think about, I mean, I'm sure a few of you might practice mindfulness. Like it's a good skill to have. All these like coping mechanisms, they're helpful for everything. So that was the first treatment center. After, I was there for a long time. It took a lot of time for me to get my weight up to be able to go to the next level, which is you are at the treatment center for breakfast, snacks, lunch, and dinner, and then you go home. I think it was around 7 or 7:30, but where I went, I was too far away. I was about an hour away from my house, so my mom uprooted and stayed in a hotel with me in that area for the 2 weeks. I think it was about 2 weeks I was there. That's one thing I want to say. I don't know if I would have been as successful if I didn't have the support system I had. So my parents, every night I could have visitors, they came every night. So I didn't get privileges every night because you have to like make weight, and it's not your fault if you don't make weight all the time. Like if I ate all my food, I did everything I was supposed to, and I didn't make weight. My dad complained to the treatment center. He said, we're her motivation. Like we should be able to see her. It's not her fault she's not gaining weight. And it's true. It wasn't my fault, but I guess that I was blamed for a lot there. I had my cameras turned on at night because they blamed me for doing exercises. They blamed me for not eating all my food. Like, they actually, some treatment centers they want you to do well. And I was at the point in the disorder where I wanted to get better. Like, all I wanted to do was get better. I remember, I know I'm kind of going back and forth, sorry. I remember before I left for my treatment, a few of my friends came over and they were like, we're gonna bring cookies. Can you eat the cookies with us? Sounds simple. It was either before or after they came, I told my dad, I was hugging him and crying, and I was like, I just want to eat the damn cookies. Like, it's not that hard, but it really is. When you have an eating disorder, it's not just eat. Like, that's what a lot of people don't understand. I actually had one of my doctors tell me, just eat. And that's really messed up for a doctor to say and not understand that it's a lot more. It's all in the mind. Of course, if we could just eat, we would. Like, by the time I told my parents I was ready to get better, like, I did not want to live in fear of food anymore. It's terrible. But where was I before I went on this little rant? Let me think. So my parents, they were there for me. My aunts came and visited a few times. I had a few friends visit me. Like, it's just really important to have those people there, like, cheering you on and know that they care and you can talk to them about everything that's going on. So I think that that's a really important part. So if you're struggling, or if you have friends that are struggling, like, be there for them. And don't be afraid to, like, ask them. If you're a friend, don't be afraid to ask them, like, what's acceptable, because some things might trigger them. Like, a lot of people did not like hearing, oh, you look better, you look healthy, wow, you're looking great. It's just, like, a lot about appearance. I didn't mind those comments so much, but I know a lot of people were like, oh, tell your parents not to say that sort of thing if it irritates you. But at the point that I was at, I wanted to get better, so I guess that was good for me to hear. After the staying in the hotel visits, or staying in the hotel and going back for the day for treatment, I got to go home and I did, like, an outpatient day program there. It was a lot shorter than the day program I had at the other treatment center. This program was from 7 a.m. I think. You went in, you weighed in. No, you only weighed you weighed once a week. So you went in, you, like, checked in, did all your stuff. And then you had your breakfast, you had your treatment classes, programs, which weren't as extensive there. I didn't really find them as helpful. Maybe it's because I already went through a lot of those programs and it was just a lot of repetition, and it was a smaller center too, so, like, art therapy, they didn't have quite as much, I feel like, for us to do. But yeah, so then you had lunch, you had a snack, then you had lunch, then you had snack, and then you left. So by the time you left, it was like 2:30 or 3. So you had a good chunk of the afternoon. Now the problem with that center was I just didn't feel like, I don't know, the way that their food was set up was so different from the first center. It made me feel so sick. And at that point, I felt a lot better mentally. So I try to check myself out, not trying to, like, relapse or anything. But they made me stay another 2 weeks. We had a meeting with my parents came to the center. We had a meeting with the nutritionist and the therapist. The nutritionist was like, yeah, she seems like she's ready to go. I think she'll be fine. One of the directors there wasn't so sure, so we said I'd stay for another 2 weeks. This is all over summer, so by then I would have like 1 or 2 weeks of summer before I went back to school, which I went to community college, and I'll touch on that decision a little later. But yeah, so at the second center, it just didn't seem as helpful for me, and all I could do when I went home was lay in bed because I felt so sick from the food. But we did have nutritionists there, so talking to them was helpful. And then where I went after that was I just had a team. So I went to a nutritionist, I went to a therapist, and I went to a doctor every week at start, and then I started going 2 times a month. And then I think my mindset was a little different from a lot of people in treatment. So since I like pretty much checked myself in, I was ready. I was just ready to get better, and I did everything I could. It wasn't easy. Even with my mindset, it wasn't easy. But I think it helped that I was ready. Like, I wanted to. It's not like somebody forced me to be there. So I was absorbing all the information. I was taking it all in, and I was trying my hardest. And another thing that helped me was eating disorders are competitive. It's like a very competitive thing. So what I would do, I'd compete against myself. I'd compete against other people with how little I could eat, with how many miles I could run, how much of this, how little. So I'd like try to eat less and less every day. So that's like competing against myself. I'd watch my friends eat, and if they weren't eating certain things, I wouldn't eat that, or I would eat less than them. I'd run more than them at the gym. I'd try harder. It's competitive. So in my mind, I said, I'm a competitive person. I had a few, not a lot of people, but I had a few people doubting me. Like the director at the second center doubted that I was ready and I could recover. So I turned that around and I said, I am competitive and I am going to kick this eating disorder in the butt. And that's what I did. So sometimes people have to go back to treatment centers, and that's fine, as long as they're doing it and like they're all in. I feel like if you're going in and you're just like, well, I don't want to be here, somebody's making me be here, I don't want to get better, then it's almost like it's almost a lost cause. Unless you kind of pay attention, you're kind of absorbing the information, you're kind of saying, this makes sense, let me get better. But yeah, I think it's really important to have the right mindset, have the right the support system there. And yeah, so I guess I kind of touched on it. So if you're struggling with an eating disorder right now, your options are, it kind of depends on your insurance and how really it's how low your weight is, mostly for insurance, which doesn't say much about how bad your eating disorder is, because your mind, it's a mental illness. It's not about, oh, I'm so low in weight, I'm worse off than other people. But I guess since I was pretty low in weight, I'm not going to say weight because that can be a trigger, but since I was pretty low in weight, I stayed for a long time, which might have helped me a lot better, because insurance covered for a lot longer than it covered for a lot of people there. So depending on what your insurance will cover and how low weight you are, you can go into inpatient treatment, the 24/7 like I talked about. So I did them all. So if anybody has any questions about anything that I'm saying, you can comment below and I can make another video, or I can comment, I can make a blog post about it. Just let me know if you have any questions, because I'm going to be rambling on, I'm sure, for a few more minutes. So yeah, you can go to the inpatient, you can go to the daycare, which is like can range from 7 to 7, I guess, to 7 to 3. So that's a little less intensive, and you have a lot more control at night and in the afternoon about eating. If you're going to eat, they'll tell you obviously to have your dinner and your snack and maybe another snack, but it's on you if you're actually going to do that. So that's a lot about mindset. And if your insurance doesn't cover inpatient, only covers that, it might be hard if you don't have like a support system or someone living with you to kind of like keep you in check to eat your meals and to just do it. Or the third option would be to just have like an outpatient team of a therapist, nutritionist, and doctor. And go to those like once a week, twice a month as you're getting better. I really cut off from those pretty quickly. Like my nutritionist, I was out of treatment August, and I stopped seeing my nutritionist probably November, December. And we were only seeing each other once a month for the last month or two. My therapist, I don't know. I think I'm better at talking to my friends and stuff than a stranger about things. So I cut off from her pretty early. I was probably only seeing her for a month and a half. And my doctor, I now obviously see every year for my annual visit, but I think I was seeing her probably for about 6 months or so after treatment, just to make sure. She was actually really good. She kind of had like a therapist vibe to her, where we'd sit in her office and talk about how I'm doing before. And I kind of liked that because it wasn't full on therapy, but it was like, oh, I'm chatting. And she was very like, I felt like I could trust her. Like, she's very personable. So yes. And that reminds me, go to your annual doctor visits. It's important. So those are the 3 types. I kind of talked about how if you don't have an eating disorder, you're not going to get it. So if you're watching this and you don't have one, just do your best to be empathetic towards the person. I think that's the right one, empathetic. Because no matter how hard you try, you're not going to understand what they're going through. And it's really hard for the person when someone else is like, oh, I know exactly what you're going through, but you have no idea. It makes it seem like they don't care. Like, oh, okay, sure, whatever. You don't actually know. Just be there, listen to them. Really just listening will help. Don't, I don't know, just don't be like super defensive around them, like they're struggling. They're going through a lot. So it just helps to have like a supportive, friendly listening ear there. Yeah, so that's my little side note there. And my last point is that it takes a long time to recover. It does. So I was in the inpatient treatment center for a month and a half, I believe, and I was in the second center for 2 weeks. So altogether, my treatment was 2 months, but you better believe that it did not stop there. Of course, I had my outpatient team for another 4 to 6 months after that, and again, did not stop there. I was struggling for a long time, not to the point where I was restricting, but to the point where sometimes I try to choose like, oh, this is the lower calorie option, this is the fat-free option, and I'd be like, well, I like that one better. The menus with the calorie counts, that kind of gets you. Or just like, food would stress me out sometimes. I would get in fights with my friends. And maybe my family too, about going out, because I didn't want to. It's hard to choose healthy options there. You never know what the restaurants put in it. And that's just not a way to live. So it takes a long time to recover. And if you're recovering or you have someone that you know that's recovering, like little steps really feel like an accomplishment. So eating alone was always harder for me. So when I ate alone, like that was just like little milestones. Eating out alone is like a big deal. That was like the first time I think I ate out alone, I was like throwing a mini party to myself. I'm like, this is like a milestone. It's an eating disorder milestone, like recovery. And then dessert. I would eat dessert with friends, but once I had dessert by myself, like a full-blown dessert by myself, oh my gosh, I was like, I think I'm fully recovered. I'm pretty sure that there's nothing I haven't done now in the recovery zone. So she was like, feel proud. It's okay to feel proud of yourself for reaching these milestones that seem small, and everybody does, or not everybody, but a lot of people do it on a daily basis. But for you, it's a big deal. Maybe don't tell everybody about it, but just kind of like have a little mini party in your head. Be like, this is great. Like, I'm proud of myself for doing this. And yeah, so I'm pretty sure I hit all the points I wanted to hit in this video. And I didn't really cry. You might have seen I got a little teary-eyed, but I did not cry, so I feel accomplished for that. So leave below in the comments if you have any questions or any points that you want me to cover more of. I have a lot of knowledge about this, like about treatment. I mean, I went through it, but I have personal knowledge, some research knowledge. So let me know if you have any questions. If you're struggling, feel free to reach out. I have my email in the link below, in the description below. Yeah, so follow me on Instagram, Twitter. I post a lot of like eating disorder recovery posts, like from back then to now. Oh, I don't think I mentioned it. I'll just say real quick, it's been about 6 years since I was in treatment. So like I'm saying, it takes a long time. And I've always wanted to be someone that could help people. And I knew year 1, year 2, year 3, like I wasn't ready to help people. Year 4 is getting there, and now I'm definitely ready. Like I don't think I can really get too triggered anymore. Not much really affects me. I'm eating fine. I'm actually bulking, so I'm trying to gain weight. So I just feel like super mentally healthy, physically healthy. Like I feel great. But it takes a long time to get there. So just keep on pushing. Get in the right mindset. Talk to your support system. Talk to me if you want. If you want any help or advice, reach out. And thank you for watching. I hope this is helpful.